Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Sow, Grow and Cook. It's the 15th of March, and today I thought I'd see what is left to harvest from our vegetable garden before we start getting into the new season crops. I didn't think that there was that much left, but actually, there's a surprising number of things that have overwintered. Um, Things that I've planted in the summer that have overwintered, and things that I deliberately planted in the autumn, hoping that I would have a winter crop from them. So come with me and we'll take a look. So just a reminder to everyone, all these crops that I'm going to show you are possible to grow undercover in a polytunnel or a cloche if you live in a slightly mild zone. Now, we get cold-ish winters some years, but we're generally a mild maritime climate here in Wales and throughout the UK. And I guess if you were going to put us in a zone, we'd roughly be a zone 8. However, it's complicated, as I've said before in other videos, that we don't tend to get really hot summers, although we do get hot spells for sure. But our summers are not reliably hot, nor are our winters always cold and snow-filled. We get some frost, but they don't tend to last for very long. And this winter, we've had a really mild, wet one. So it's going to be a little bit different each year. Okay, let's get started. So these leeks were planted about May, June time last year, and they produced quite a lot of leafy greens throughout the summer and early autumn. They took a little bit of a hit during frost, but I know that if the winters are not too severe, they do come back in the spring, and you can see they are now. So these will be very sweet and tasty, and I use chard in things like omelettes and spinach cheese pie, or as a nice side green with other meals and things. Okay, next to that we have got Welsh bunching onions. So these are kind of a perennial onion. They never really develop a big bulb, but you can eat the stems and the stalks. You can eat the root as well. And they're a delicious green onion or scallion sort of substitute. And you don't have to keep planting them, although you can divide them and propagate them through division. So any of these crowded bunches I could dig up and separate and plant one of the clumps somewhere else. They do go to seed as well, so they propagate that way too. Here in the small, some more leeks in another raised bed. Number 4, we have got some Sor cabbages left. I've been harvesting these gradually throughout the winter, and I have got these 2 left. I think I planted these out in August, and they've wintered over well. They've got nice heads, but I do have to wash them well because they get little slugs living in them. Here we've got some kale, one of many varieties. This one's Delaware kale. Here's some curly kale that's starting to go to seed, but you can eat those seed blossoms and they are delicious. Here we've got some red Russian kale, very winter hardy. Got a little bit of a pinkish red tinge on it. And again, these are starting to go to seed, but these seed heads are absolutely delightful to eat, steamed like broccoli. They're sweet and tasty. I've got a little bit of Cavallonero kale growing, or dinosaur kale as it's also known in other places. It's starting to go to seed, so I'll be pulling that out soon. Some more curly kale growing inside the polytunnel. a little bit more lush because it's well protected from the wind and the cold temperatures some of the time. So it's a very lush green plant. It's developing a flower head as well. There's some beautiful yellow chard. Very pretty. I still have some swede or rutabaga, as they're known as in North America and elsewhere. They winter over well. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This one here has taken a bit of a hit. I don't think I'll be using that one. Now, one of my favorite things to grow is the Egyptian walking onion, and I'm just making this a permanent bed, a perennial bed. So they grow tall and they set little bulblets at the end of a stem, and that flops over onto the ground, and those bulblets take root and upgrow new plants. And they are absolutely delicious. A great green onion, spring onion, or scallion substitute. A bit like the Welsh bunching onions, but grown slightly differently. And they're very, very easy to grow, pretty carefree, if you ask me. So they are a welcome addition. They do die back in the winter, but as soon as the daylight starts lengthening and the weather warms up a little bit, they really do start growing. There's Pip staring at her ball again. Okay, I know I've brought you along to the polytunnel in the recent past, but let's just have a little update. So we've got purslane, and I'm still picking that. And rocket or arugula. Now, some of my Oriental Greens have gone to flower. There we are. Nice for the pollinators. You can still eat the leaves if you needed to. You can eat this bit, no problem. Very tasty. Can you hear the rain coming down? So we've got my flowering tatsoi and the bok choy, which has also gone to seed, but they are still very, very edible. In fact, I think these are very tasty. I cut into one of the stalks as well, and they're still very juicy and tender. So you can still stir fry those or chuck them in soups and things. Further along, the lamb's lettuce, still harvesting that, and the self-seeded parsley, which I know I showed you last week, and some wintered over lettuce, and mustards, and mizuna. This is just a small amount of the mizuna. I'll show you more that I've got growing in the other polytunnel. And spinach, real proper spinach. I'm going to pick some of this today and put it in a curry. We're going to have a chickpea and sweet potato and spinach curry. I almost forgot this white sprouting broccoli. I've only got 2 plants worth, but that should give us a few pickings because they send out little side shoots as well as a main shoot there. Okay, so we're in the lower polytunnel now, and last September I had a bag of mizuna seeds that really needed using up, and I tend to grow these things in the autumn for winter pickings and things. So I planted them, and it took a long time for them to germinate. And finally they did, and they stayed small for quite a while, sort of in November, December, January time. But come February, they just went mad. So I've got a really lush patch of Lazuna. So that's going to mean probably lots of salads containing Lazuna. And the rest of it, well, some of it'll flower. It's beginning to flower now, which is fine for the pollinators. And if necessary, I can feed it to the chickens or compost it. So it's not going to get wasted. It's going to get used in some shape or form. Right, and along here we have got the last Brussels sprouts. Now they look a little bit tired out, and some of the leaves are not so great, but many of them are still usable. If you peel away a couple of layers on the sprouts themselves, they're very firm. We had a few of these last week, and they were delicious. They were quite sweet because they've been frosted. We've had a frost, and that changes the taste and texture of a lot of brassicas and makes them really sweet and tender. So we'll be having some of those. Down here I've got some spring cabbage, which is starting to form heads. They don't form very tight heads, and they're kind of pointy and loose-leafed, but they're a very useful hungry gap green. So these will come ready when some of the other stuff in here will be finishing off. Finally, to the right, I've got some purple sprouting broccoli. And I really need to pick these, but there's so much other stuff that I've been picking that I kind of forgot about these. Well, these are lovely, really good. Very tender, very tasty, stir-fried or steamed, and eaten like regular broccoli. And a Cavolo Nero that's well and truly going to seed. So as you can see, there's still a lot of clearing up to do, and quite a lot of the things that I'm going to clear up are perfectly edible. Admittedly, a lot of them are in the brassica family, but that suits me just fine. We really like brassicas, and there's such a great variety. I mean, Swedes or rutabagas are related to cabbages, not sort of close relative, but they are a subspecies or subtype of brassica, as are Oriental greens like Lazuna and bok choy. They're related to things like kale and cabbage too. And they seem really well suited to our climate here. And if they do go to seed and they flower, well, that helps the pollinators early in the season. And we can also feed a lot of the greens and things that are getting a bit tough or bitter to the chickens, because they love it, and the ducks do too. And failing that, they'll end up in the compost heap, and they'll be used in the future to nourish our soil. So let me know in the comment section below what you've still got in your gardens, if anything. I know many of you have got very, very, very cold winters and severe frosts, so it may not be possible to do any of this. But if you have got anything that does overwinter, well, let me know. And those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, you must be coming to the end of your summer season, and you'll probably be thinking about planting things to winter over shortly. So I'd be fascinated to learn what you've got growing, harvesting, and planning to grow for the next season. And once again, thank you for watching So Grow and Cook, and hope to see you next time. Bye for now.